Good evening and welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm your host, Shilo Kilburn, and of course I got Mr. Marv with me. How are you, Marv?
I'm doing good. How are you, Shiloh?
I am doing good. It is wet up here, so
Yeah,
it's been raining
there's
for quite a bit. Oh man, I was gonna use my new intro on your source for all the news that's new and improved, just not approved by your local officials.
You're gonna get us in
Oh.
trouble right out of the gate.
That's what we do, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
No, so it's been raining up here, and first it was like a hurricane, like Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, Sunday it was just, oh my goodness, you couldn't hardly walk outside. And then it started raining. And I don't think it's ever stopped. So we've had some pretty good showers up here. I don't know how much we have or anything like that, but it was getting pretty dusty anyway, so we needed it, but I think it can shut off now for a while.
I'll take another week of it, and then it can give me a break. I worked this last weekend, so it was kind of okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you weren't worried about all your outside stuff that you need to get done?
Not yet. You just shut your hole. For those of you just joining us, Rick text us. He is running a little bit late, but he'll be on with us in a little bit here.
Yep.
So Shiloh, it's been a busy week in the news.
It has. It has.
We have Representative Doctor being found guilty and all sorts of articles going out about that. And now legislative leadership's going to be looking at the Ethics Commission and all sorts of drama, huh?
So what do you think? Are they gonna actually do something with Doctor, or are they gonna just eliminate that ethics?
I think they're worried because there's an awful lot of them that have lease agreements that they do with the state. Jason's
Mhm.
not the only one. So
Yeah.
you start looking at businesses registered to property owned by, I mean, I could start naming names, but I'm not that guy. But
Oh, come on, why not?
I mean, we can list all the legislators and the businesses that they own. We'll drop that on our webpage maybe later today. I'm still chasing down a few because where they're a silent partner, it's a little bit harder to find if they are attached to ownership. But you take into account the JPR investments
Mm-hmm.
owned by the Roars family. Registered agent is Shannon. You go on to the Office of Budget and Management, type in JPR. I think it's number 11 and number 14. And it's to the tune of about $10 million in leases, if not more. And that's not including Roar's construction and the contracts they've had through the state. And granted, they get an awful lot of contracts for construction out at the college out there, but there's still an awful lot of money that flows through their doors. And yeah, I guess my thing is, folks, if you're going out to your meet and greets for your candidates running for office, the first question you should be asking them is, A, will you support the Ethics Commission moving forward? And B, will you reverse the law that was passed in 2019 that made the legislators' emails unable to be open records requested? Because yeah, it's obviously really easy to hide deals when nobody can see that you're making them.
That's a fact. Just a second here. As you can hear the dogs, just give me a second.
No problem. All right, as Shiloh walks away. But yeah, folks, Office of Budget and Management, they have a transparency website, financial transparency. Give me a second here and I'll pull it up for you so you can see it yourself. But once you know...
Sorry, I apologize for that.
No, it's fine. I'm doing show and tell.
So
Once
anyway,
you know where to look, share screen. We want this one and share away. Underneath the financial transparency tab, and you pull up the checkbook. So this is where the post came up earlier today about the true total that Stealth Properties has gotten from the state. Once it gets loaded here, I'll show you where I found it. But this goes for any spending, anything that the state writes a check for is what's supposed to get filed through here. So vendor name.
Well, I wonder how long this is not going to stay up. I mean, oops.
And we hit OK. And it pulls up every year that they have leased. So 281,021, 891,000 in 22, 913,000 in 23 for the fiscal year, and 690,000 for fiscal year 24. So,
Wow.
yeah, once you know your vendor, once you know what you're looking for, it becomes a lot easier to sit and look. Let's try this one. There's your investments. So far, they've only done 119 for this fiscal year, but you look at last fiscal year, investments was 873, 832. You go back to 2015, $735,000. I mean, that's quite a bit of checks written. And all that stuff you can verify straight through the Secretary of State's office. You go on to the business page if you can find it, because the website's been fun recently. And you
Well, I
can.
don't recommend you go to his office because most of the time he has the door closed and won't let you in.
He just doesn't like you. You give
Fair
him
enough.
headaches.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, folks, it's more than just Representative Doctor that's been involved in this, and they are going to scramble to do anything that they can to eliminate confusion, which means they're going to find a way to bury stuff deeper. Not conspiracy, obviously, because we have a convicted representative at this point. Other things I see in the news, a representative out in the Grand Forks area got a DUI this last week, so they're not commenting on that. So
I've seen that. I don't know.
I don't know the
Oh,
full
yeah.
details. I'm not going to even speculate as to what's going on. I just it's going to be an ugly election season, Shilo. And I was going to wait for a wrap up after Rick, but I mean, obviously, since he's not on, we may as well talk it now. These stupid flyers that are already going out.
Oh, you mean this one here?
Yeah, that fantastic thing.
I was gonna ask him about some of these bills, so hopefully we can talk about a couple of them. I mean, there's like 6 of them on here, but at any rate.
And again, that's something where you need to know how to use the Secretary of State website, folks, because we're almost to the point where these companies need to be filing. We'll soon cross the threshold where there's the 48-hour pre-primary for filing. So that's how in 22 I was able to see who the Brighter Future Alliance was going to be sending flyers out to before they actually hit your mailbox. I went back and looked at their history, and this is like the first one I've seen attached to them in opposition of Becker. But like with what that group is, they have to file how their money is spent. So you go into expenditures, you go Brighter Future, you'll be able to pull it up. They have nothing listed for 24 so far. Monday when I went and looked, there was nothing, period. It was just a dead page. So
can we look one of these bills up and let's talk about one?
I haven't had a chance to go super far into them, but I know the House
How about
bill.
the first one that he says voted no on 2019 HCR 3025?
That's a House concurrent resolution. Let's look at an actual bill.
Okay.
So give me a second.
2019.
Present. Because I already kind of looked at these. And like, what is it? House Bill 1011 from 2019 was on that list.
Voted no 2021 HP 1003. Oh yeah, 1011. Yep.
So the thing is, let's pull that bill up here, folks. They're not giving you the whole truth on the flyers by themselves.
Hey Marvin, I just thought about this. Did you send Rick the deal?
Yeah, it's emailed over to him.
Okay, good. All right.
But just go to the bills, pull up the action. I mean, this bill was back and forth between the House and Senate. It was back and forth between committees. Like, it bounced. There was emergency clauses in Senate sent back to the House. Like, it was a continuous fight. Versions, there were 1, 2, 3, 4.
So explain what that means.
So the original bill, that's the introduced bill. That's the raw, uncut. It hasn't been touched.
Okay.
Then you go into first engrossment, which is going to be your first markup, where they're going to go back through. They are going to either be crossing things off, adding things on. Anytime you see where it's underlined, that's an addition to. Anytime there's a line struck through a bill, that means it's something that they're removing, unless it says right at the very top, this is being repealed. So overall, this one in particular, let's go to the top. Defray expenses on veterans' home and to provide a report. They were adding administrator.
Sorry.
Yeah, so administrator residence, they were adding $233,450 to administrator residence. No idea what that even was. One-time fundings, $485,350 for income. So I don't know where the incomes come into play on this particular one. Like I said, I glanced at them, and that's about as far as I went. But estimated income, administrator housing stipend. The estimated income, section 1 of the act, includes $48,000 from the Soldiers Home Fund to provide a $2,000 monthly housing stipend to the Veterans Home Administrator. So I don't even know if that made the final version of this bill. Let's look at the engrossment. So appropriations, we still are adding that housing. We're still adding a bunch of stuff here. But the thing is like, this bill went back and forth a lot. The final engrossment did include a bunch of one-time funding stuff.
So pork, is that what you're kind of alluding to, or do we?
I'm not sure, because like I said, I mean, finding any sort of financial engrossment or attachments on these gets to be a hassle too. So where they're trying to see what this is.
Bill reading 101 with Marvin Lepp. This is awesome.
So, I mean, here again, where they're striking out, this is an amendment. This is their final copies of adjustments, stuff like that.
Then the green is what they added. Is that what you're?
Green will what being new, red's what being removed, because they moved the 1719 and 1921 over. So, I mean, you got to go look at what the bills actually are instead of just taking on face value on the flyer.
Yeah.
You know, in the blue, here's that great big section about the housing stipend, a bunch of one-time funding stuff, includes $100,000 for flooring project, $233,000 for demolition of the administrator residence, and $52,000 is for security upgrades. So looks like they literally were knocking something down with this one. And again, you can say what you want, but when it comes to these things, it's literally a half truth as to what's going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did the previous residence need to be demolished? Where's the photos? Where's the home inspection? Where's the proof there was mold? There's plenty of things that you can think about before you even just assume that we're going to spend $230,000 to level a house.
My question is, I'm just curious, who was the other ones that voted no against this? And in fact,
it was a pretty mixed group. Sorry, I already closed the page. The first time through, like 17 voted no just in the House. So it wasn't just Rick that voted no. So
okay. So that would be one of the questions I would ask is how many on their side, their side of Brighter Future Alliances, also voted no on these bills that they're accusing Rick of voting no on?
I mean, I'm more interested in who took money from Pfizer this last legislative session.
Well, yeah, I get that part too,
You
but
know?
I'm just, yeah.
It's like if you're gonna do a half truth, like, okay, well, yeah, you took the first round of a vote, but this thing went back how many times? I didn't even look at the final vote because it was easy to see once you pulled up the bill. Here's a dozen drafts for it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
it
don't
is a
know.
nice picture of Rick holding the ladder here for the. I mean, I can't believe this stuff. You can't make this stuff up, really?
No, and I mean it's not like I said on the last show. I'm not expecting them just to stop at Rick, which is funny because that particular group really doesn't have a dog in that fight if you think about it. Because Fedorchuk's governor backed.
Yeah.
You have Miller, who's governor backed. You have Rick. You have Alex. You have Kara, who I believe last time she ran for office, the Democrats dropped Mark Haugen in favor of her, supporting her.
Yeah.
And then you got the gal up from Williston. Is it Scarlett Moore? So I mean, like, I don't see the traditional establishment candidate involved in this particular race. So it's
I think the quick answer would probably be Fedorchuk. Just my gut feeling, but
you know what I'm really disappointed about though? I'm disappointed we don't get the green and blue for the governor back candidates again this year. It was so easy for the green and blue is not for you. And you can always tell who was taking money from Doug.
Right. Speaking of Doug, is he going to be our vice president?
God, I hope not.
That could be a disaster. A disaster.
You know, for everything he said against Trump, it would just be a hard pill for me to swallow if Trump chose him as his VP.
I'd vote Jesse Ventura. No, just kidding.
Like,
no,
but you see where I'm at. I
Mhm.
mean, we have how many years of criticism against Trump. We have him smiling at the Biden inauguration in 2020. We have him not coming to the Stop the Steal event that was hosted on the Capitol steps in 2020. Like, with everything he said about he would not do business with him, he wouldn't work with them. It hurts a little bit to think that I'm hearing rumors from as far south as Missouri and further that Doug's the pick for VP. Like, it's not just here that you're hearing the rumors.
If that doesn't scare you, folks, I don't know what you need. I really don't. I don't know.
But we're in the last month now, so I mean we're down to the ugly. We're gonna see the nasty flyers. We're gonna see the nasty attack ads. I wouldn't be half surprised if somebody goes after someone's political career where it's not only just removing them from the race, it's making sure they never run again. It's gonna be that ugly this year, and I've been saying it for 4 years already. This year was gonna be ugly.
I agree. And even as we get closer to November, I think that we're going to see some things that we'd never imagine. And let's just put it in this train of thought, or however you want to say it. But look what's already happening at the universities around the country.
Yep.
That's only going to get bigger. Like, I seen a deal on Facebook today that said it's starting. There was 10 people at NDSU. How big do you think that crowd's going to be by November?
I don't know, man.
I think that we shouldn't be so naive as North Dakotans to think just because we live here that it's not going to happen here. That we're up. I think we're way beyond that part. You know,
Yeah.
when Dr. Frank was here, he kind of coined the phrase "not North Dakota nice, but North Dakota duped," and I think that we need to not be so duped anymore when it comes to all of these candidates.
Oh, well, and it's not just candidates. I mean, you look at the other garbage that we're dealing with. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't seen a petition circulating trying to get abortion added to the North Dakota Constitution like they've been doing in other states. I'm surprised we haven't seen more.
They're going to use the legislature to do that. They'll try that again.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, it's coming. And it's just frustrating, Shiloh. It is. You can only beat your head against a wall so many times before you just want to walk away. So,
Yeah.
And I'm not to that point. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't like saying I told you so on some of this stuff. Because how much have we talked about behind camera over the last year that we've been working together, and we're seeing more and more of it circling through. There's a Rick.
Oh, there he is. Without further ado, Dr. Rick Becker, how are you, bud?
I'm tired, guys.
Yeah.
He had the longest day in 26 years. That's it. Right, Rick? Is that 26 years?
The longest day of scheduled cases, ER and stuff adds way, way longer. But it's, normally you don't try and schedule this much. I started before 7 this morning, and so now I'm done.
Cool. Well, we're happy that you're on. Thanks for being on with us again.
Yeah, sorry for being late.
I'm sorry.
No worries. We were just rambling and ranting.
All right. I don't have my toaster with me this time, so I was going to try something else, but I only got so much room here in my closet. That's going to be the studio, so.
Yeah.
You're going to have Angel put a lock on there so she can lock you in from the outside, Shiloh.
Don't be giving her ideas now. Come on.
Too late. I'm already texting her. How are you doing, Rick?
Well, things are good. Campaign's good. And yeah, I don't know. Just rolling right along.
Good.
Well, we're kind of into crunch time. What do we got? Like a month and a couple days here?
Yeah. I'm looking at crunch time times 2. We've got, like, what is it? Is it 5 weeks from today for the primary for run for Congress? And then, then we have another 2 weeks beyond that to get our signatures in for the property tax measure.
How's the property tax measure going? Just out of curiosity. Were you doing pretty good on the numbers, or?
I wouldn't say pretty good. I would say that we're still on track that we're going to make it.
Awesome.
Pretty good would be that,
we're already done and turning.
We're just building our cushion,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What is the biggest opposition right now that you're running into with the property tax initiative?
Oh, it's easy. It's the same thing. It's because of the local, some local officials and primarily lobbyists, and specifically Rich Wardner, they're going around and telling the school districts and the city and county commissioners that they're going to lose control, and they're at risk of not having enough funding. I don't know how they phrase it, but the thing is, we're not going to have money. We're not going to be able to hire teachers, police officers, buy fire trucks, and we're giving the control to Bismarck. So these two things are just patently false. I mean, it takes like literally a 5-minute discussion between me and the person who's making those claims to completely have it be apparent and obvious, like, oh, I guess those aren't concerns. they're not at all things that stand up to any kind of scrutiny. So maybe the 2012 measure, possibly, but not this measure.
So what is your response to that then when you hear people talking about losing local control and different things?
So there's two things. There's two parts. The The measure says that the state must replace everything to every subdivision that they were levying in 2024. So that means that the state has to replace it. And there's no strings attached. The state isn't in the budgeting. The state doesn't make decisions. The state can't say we're going to give you this, but you have to do X, Y, or Z. There's no strings attached. The legislature is so uninvolved in this aspect. They go to the statistical report of property tax and they look on page 22 or whatever and say, oh, okay, your county got this much or levied this much. Here you go, chunk. That's it. Right. So there's no losing control in that. Now we can go into greater detail, but I can make an argument that we're actually giving more control because right now with the valuation-based property tax, there are a ton of restrictions on the locals, tons of restrictions on the locals. Those are all lifted once this is done. So we know that as far as everything that the locals were getting in 2025, the state's going to keep them whole. The state is going to keep them whole without strings attached. So they don't have to worry about that money. It's guaranteed every single year, and they don't have to worry about losing control, right? So we're at that. So far, so good. Agreed? Okay.
Agreed.
Then you go forward. Okay, well, what about 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30? Yes, the state's not going to pick up that tab. The locals have to pick up that tab. The people who live in the cities and counties and school districts are not scot-free. We still are going to be required to have skin in the game. We are still going to have to pay for the increasing amounts that those new budgets are going to require. Just the amount of the increase, right? Just on average, it's 4.6%. For some, it's 8%, but we'll be responsible for that increase. So the locals are in charge of making the budget just like they are now. They can create whatever budget they want. They know that 95% of it in the first year, at least, the state is picking up. They just need to come up with that other 5%. And how do they do that? They have a number of ways they can do it. If I was an elected official, instead of crying in a corner about, gosh, this seems hard and I don't like change, I would be looking at this as an opportunity where I'd say, wow, the handcuffs are off. We're going to come up with a plan that makes it so that we can raise the revenue from the people who live in my city or county or school district, tailored to them, to us, so that it's the best it can be for our group of people. Maybe it's going to be different than Fargo or Williston or Grand Forks or, whatever, you can tailor it. So it's a great opportunity. So that increase amount, the locals can levy a fee or a tax in any number of ways. They'll point to sales tax and say, oh, but the rural areas can't raise sales tax. Well, we're not talking about sales tax. Yes. Is that an option? Sure. Could Bismarck raise their sales tax instead of coming up with a different fee or tax? They could. I doubt they're going to want to, but they could. But the primary thing is going to be that maybe there will be a municipal operations tax or fee, and maybe it'll be monthly, maybe it'll be yearly. The point is that your local officials can tailor it. So they're going to create the budget that they need. They're going to determine the best way to derive the revenue to fulfill that increased need of the budget. And the amazing thing on top of all that is that the citizen, because we're moving away from valuation-based property tax, your locals are going to raise the tax some other way. Those other ways are all much more accessible and much more transparent to the citizen. So they'll bring it up in a public meeting. There is required public input. And so there is no loss of funding. How can there be? How can there be a loss of funding unless the citizens say, yeah, we don't want this. We don't want a new tax because you already have 6 fire trucks and we don't need a 7, whatever it might be. But the point is, the only way that there is not enough funding for a new thing, a new service, is if the citizens who live in that area say no. And in that case, that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you're almost making a case for electing local officials that are fiscally responsible, Rick.
Right. Well, right. And see, that's the funny thing, is because people will say that, well, this is a problem with the measure, is that it doesn't control local spending. It doesn't, but it makes it easier for the local citizens to control it. But no, this doesn't magically make elected officials suddenly, care about the taxpayer dollar more. They're still going to be trying to spend too much. But there's two things that this measure is not a magic bullet. It's two things, inarguably two things. Number one, it's huge relief, tax relief, because everything that you're paying in property tax through the 2024 levy, meaning what you pay in 25, you're going to be able to keep that amount every single year going forward. That's gargantuous tax relief, because then you're going to be spending that in the state. It's going to drive the economy. Everyone will benefit. Tax relief. Number two, tax reform. We move away from valuation-based property tax. So there's no more being shocked and ticked off because an assessor said your property is suddenly worth way more, even though you didn't do anything to it. We're moving away from mills that almost nobody understands, and assessed values, which is half of the full and true value, and then the taxable value, which is 0.9 if it's residential, but 0.1 if it's commercial. I mean, it's all right. So this is major reform. It's relief, it's reform. It's not a magic bullet. It doesn't mean that you don't have to stay on top of your local elected officials going forward.
Yeah.
I would
Otherwise, you're
say
in
it
for a
even
rude
makes you more
surprise.
to get off your duff and get out and get involved.
I had several elected officials, not all together, but I've been meeting throughout the state. Several elected officials tell me that one of the concerns, the primary concerns they have, is that people will say no to tax increases, and then they won't be able to.
Well, and you look at things that I've been seeing, like, I mean, even just outside of Bismarck here, and I got a lot of guff on it from the side, but Gibbs Township, which is 5 miles out of town here, a couple months ago, was looking at going from a 4 mil to a 18 mil in preparation for the property tax initiative passing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
from
there's
4 to 18, so they could take a larger chunk of the pie once the initiative passed.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up getting settled back down to 6, but since townships aren't required to report to the state auditor, which is something the legislators need to take a look at as some way to account for their books. It's interesting that we've been seeing it all over the state, though, because we've been seeing new school bond and referendums where they're trying to get stuff shotgun past voters. We've been seeing mill increases across the board. And I mean, even Bismarck, it was what, a 10% increase on some people's homes? I went and looked my house up. We've gone up 20% in the last 5 years on what we pay in taxes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that's not why we're here tonight. Other than that, how's your run for office going? Pretty fantastic. Sorry, we got a little sidetracked there.
Yeah, I got no complaints, man. I mean, you look at the endorsements rolling in. Rand Paul is doing a great amount of campaigning for me, which is huge support. I got a letter in the mail last night, 4-page letter from him, which was an amazing letter. I mean, wow. So I hope people will see that if they haven't already. But yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy and Thomas Massey and Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar and Bob Good and Mary Miller. I mean, it's just because these are all the House Freedom Caucus members, and it's amazing to me that they have had an opportunity to meet me, recognize that I am a person that they believe, based on my record and what I've told them, that I will stay true to the principles. That's who they want in working with them, because they know if they get enough people like them, we can actually maybe fix the country. So that's fantastic. And then, we're starting. There you go. A heck of a good letter. Let's see. And we're starting our own ads tomorrow on network TV, I believe. So it's funny. I just saw that something had come across the wire here with the infamous blogger from Minot, and he's saying about how, I'm not spending anything and whatever. Coming up with theories, but it's ironic because I think we have a little announcement or press release or whatever that we're starting our big ad buy tomorrow. So
yeah, I know in my state run those digital billboards. It really was nice to get those up and running. Like it was an expense, but it was worth it. I mean, we saw the numbers come out even with our little modest run. I feel that those helped an awful lot.
Yeah.
So
What are you hearing out there on the campaign trail? What are people talking about? What are they worried about? What are they opposing you with?
People are real worried, or not worried. They're concerned about the effects of that mailer, the hit piece that with all the lies that Pat Finken did with Brighter Future Alliance. Yeah, that one. On behalf of Julie's campaign, I shouldn't say on behalf of, because that would mean that Julie initiated it, but to the benefit of Julie Fedorchuk's campaign, that's what they're doing. So, Pat Finken is good buddies with John Hoeven, was his campaign manager, and so on and so forth. So Pat is driving the Brighter Future Alliance, which has been trying to take out conservatives in Republican primaries for 4 years now. So Pat's got a standard MO. What he does the same thing all the time, and that is he finds for people who have a record, for people who have been legislators, he finds an actual bill as a fact. He finds how the person voted on it as a second fact, and then he completely distorts and misconstrues what the bill was about. And then if you try and defend yourself, then he can keep saying, no, these are facts, you look it up. Well, yeah, the bill's correct, the vote's correct, but it's not what it's about. And so it's amazing to me that you can get away with those kind of lies. So what he's saying there, and I think, frankly, he kind of jumped the shark, is the term. I love that term, by the way. You guys know where "jump the shark" comes from?
Yeah, from Happy Days. Fonzie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Fonzie water skiing, and they had him jump over a shark, and that was kind of like, okay, that's the downfall. We've just gone too far. This is a little too much. So that's where I'm saying with they jumped the shark on this, because, well, maybe not, because they're trying to get to the low information voter. They're trying to do that. But most people that are kind of following politics, they're like, so they're saying Becker likes illegal aliens, hates the wall, and hates police. Okay, this is obviously a smear piece. So yeah, what they're saying real quick, what he's saying there was a measure in 2019, and not a measure, a resolution. And the resolution was to send a message to our congressional delegation in DC that we want them to fund the wall, border wall. Now, I'm on record in support of the border wall. It's on my Facebook feed back in 2018 and going forward. They're saying that I was against it. Now for this campaign, I switched. That's not true. Here's the thing. For one thing, resolutions are a little bit of a waste of time when you send messages and pick days of special day. It's just stupid, but whatever. It's part of the fun. But 12 days before we voted on the measure to urge our congressional delegation to fund the border wall, 12 days before that, on February 14th, 2019, the Senate, John Hoeven, voted for, and they passed the McConnell, Schumer, Pelosi budget that had stripped away the funding for the wall. So they already did the opposite of what this resolution was asking them to do. So it already happened, and they already failed us. So it seemed kind of silly to me to be voting on it and pretending like we're sending them a message. It was sort of like we're giving them cover for being such crap senators and voting for what the Uniparty wanted after stripping away Trump's border wall funding. So I voted no. So that's ridiculous. And then the other thing is defunding. So there's never been a bill to defund law enforcement ever in North Dakota. And what they're talking about is that we conservatives will often vote against a budget, an agency budget. Department of Education, Attorney General's office, the governor's office, the auditor's office will vote against a budget if it's too big and bloated. And the idea is if enough people vote no, that it doesn't pass, then it goes back to committee and they trim some of the fat, and then it comes back to you vote yes. So I voted no on that bill. And what they claim then is because there was some police funding within the Attorney General's budget, one of 60 things, they say I voted to defund the police. Julie Fedorchak uses the same tactic. In the debate that we had several weeks ago, she talks about how because I voted against her budget, the PSC, where they were expanding significantly, I voted against that budget. And she said, I don't remember the quote exactly, but she indicated in the debate that I wanted no funding for X, Y, or Z, whatever it was in her budget. I mean, and that should go to show people that her mindset is you have to vote yes on these budgets, right? So my thought process is if voting no on the Attorney General's budget means that you vote against law enforcement, does that mean that the Attorney General can make the budget as big as he wants? There's no limit, and you must never vote no? Is that what that means? It's kind of crazy. So clearly, Julie is one of these uniparty rhino Republicans that's going to vote yes on the omnibus bills and vote yes wherever there's pressure to vote yes on spending. It's so obvious, so obvious.
Well, I think people are just tired of government spending. Like, yes, there are essential programs that we need to have, but it seems like more and more we get taxed more and more for benefits that we'll never see. You look at, I think it's between 30 and 45% of what you make gets paid in various taxes, whether it's your fuel tax, your property tax, your sales tax, your vehicle purchase tax. I mean, it's taxes on taxes on taxes, and it's literally to the point where you'll own nothing and be happy. I'm going to borrow that one from our friend Kit because she's been hammering at home on that for a while. And people are just tired, man. I'm really excited to see what happens after June. I am. I want to get to this finish line with the June primary and kind of see what we have for this summer. And I'm hoping that we see you moving forward to November, because you, and I've said it before on the show when you're not here, I mean, you keep coming back and you've taken so many shots to the chin and you've still continued to stand up and stand for what you stand for and stand for what your voters elected you for. That's ridiculous. You look at the vaccine passport bill you brought forward special session of 2020 or 2021. Nobody else would have done that. Yeah. No one else would have had the courage to bring that bill forward. And people just, they don't understand. It's easy to see these flyers that come rolling through where it's just attack. But we as voters need to take the time to know who we're voting for. And for you, I mean, you have a long and proven track record of standing by your principles. Yeah, and I don't see that with the other candidates. And I'm going to exclude Alex from that comment because we don't have a voting record to look at with Alex.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
The thing with Alex, I've got a couple. I'll say a couple of things. Well, first off, he seems like a super nice guy, and he seems to have a fair amount in the way of conservative philosophy. It's just a little bit difficult, right? Because he came out of nowhere, and it's kind of like nobody really knew him, not even in Can-Do, just came out of nowhere. But if he is who he says he is, and believes what he says he does, and all that, it's good. It's nice. But there are 2 points I would make. Number one, why would you run in a race against the most conservative person to run for Congress in North Dakota in the last, 50, 80, I don't know how many years? Why would you choose that race? If you're a conservative, why would you run against the most conservative person who's been able to run? And then the other thing I would tell people, if, again, it sounds like a great guy and fascinating, his whole thing about like the military stuff, like evade and all that. It sounds fascinating. But I go back to the debate, and there are some distinct differences. He comes from, he looks at things, especially spending, from the perspective of someone working for the government, because that's right? He's a Fed. He was working for the State Department, Hillary Clinton's State Department. And so he comes from things from the perspective of someone working for the government. And I see that in his responses when you really listen to his responses. And it's about how we do need to have subsidies for certain things, and how we do need to fund these foreign wars, and how we do have a responsibility to go around the world and help oppressed people and stop communism and pay for these things. You know, there's some very distinctive and dramatic differences. I don't know that the people of North Dakota, certainly people of the United States, are in that spot anymore of trying to bail out the entire world when we can't even bail ourselves out.
We've got a lot. Yeah, we've got a lot of problems to your point there, Rick, and exactly. We need to start bailing ourselves out.
Yeah.
So what's your message going forward now as you move forward to the primary? What are you focusing on?
Well, what I'm focusing on just continuing to work, and we're doing town halls and meetings and going all around. We're starting the advertising again tomorrow or maybe Thursday. And the message is the same, you guys. I mean, I'm the same, right? And I don't know. The message is we need less government, less spending. And it's the same stuff, the same challenges I had in 2013, in my first session in the state legislature, are the same challenges we face now in the big picture, right? Too much spending, people in charge that aren't principled, people in charge that don't stand for the platform that they're supposed to stand for, people that aren't being held accountable. Sure, was the southern border, well, actually, yeah, the southern border was a problem then, but it wasn't as big of a problem. Was international, the never-ending wars a problem? Yeah, they were, and they still are. You know, now we're doing a little more in the way of proxy wars, but the point is the same. We're getting ourselves involved where we shouldn't be. So, yeah, the message is the same, Shilo. I'm me.
Are you?
And people, you know, this is amazing. This is what people have been asking for, right? People have been asking to be able to have a choice, an actual choice, right?
Yep.
Not just two things that are almost identical, and you don't like either one. You got to figure out which one you like least, or dislike, right? Dislike least. So now,
what race are you talking about?
Right. So now you have someone who's a true conservative. You know, and people probably aren't going to agree with me 100% of the time, but you're not going to find a candidate that you agree with 100% of the time. So you've got a true conservative with a track record. You have another person who is definitely part of the establishment. There's no doubt about that. Part of the establishment. This is what people have been asking for. This race, I used the term gladiators before. You've got the gladiators in this particular situation are me and Julie. In other states, there are other people. In times before, there are other people. In times in the future, there'll be other people. But the point is, you've got two fighters, one for the grassroots conservative, one for the establishment status quo. And for so many elections in North Dakota, we've had two people, both of the establishment. Now we have a race, a true race between status quo establishment and principled conservative. This is what people have been asking for. So now it's a matter of, well, are we in the minority or are we in the majority? We'll find out.
We're about to find out. What do you say to those people? How do I say this? What do you say to those people that say, well, we don't want to send someone that just says no all the time because we're not going to get anything done. There has to be some compromise there.
What the hell do you want to get done? What do you want to get done in the federal government? They should do less, and they're almost doing nothing because everything they do, they screw up. So you want, so not you, Shilo, but
I know.
All he does is says no. First off, that's a stupid thing to say. I'm going to say it again. That's stupid to say, because if you look at my voting record, I didn't only say no. Look at all the bills that I was able to get passed. Look at all the bills I did vote yes on. What they're saying, Shilo, is that I say no too much. I say no more than they're liking because they don't want me to say no to omnibus spending. They don't want me to say no to pork. They don't want me to say no to this uniparty crap. That's what they mean. That is what they mean. So yes, I am going to stand for principle. And when that means that I need to vote no, you betcha. And I'll do it with a smile.
Awesome. I love it.
I think you do need to add one thing to your message moving forward into the primary, Rick.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you get in your mailbox.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to tack on to that. Any candidate that Brighter Future Alliance tells you to not vote for, that is the correct candidate for you to vote for. Do the opposite of Brighter Future Alliance, because these guys are so swampy and they are so establishment and they are so unethical. Pat Finken and Brighter Future Alliance, biggest liars in North Dakota.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, that's a big line to draw in the sand. I was telling Shilo before you came on, we're coming up to the point where people are actually going to be able to go to the Secretary of State website and pull up what they're spending on, because we're coming into that 48-hour pre-primary where anything over $500 has to be reported right away. So I'm interested to see who else Brighter Future is going to be putting out attack ads on, because like 22, we were able to see that he was coming out against Magram and Pipecorn out in Fargo and everybody else that he attacked. Like, we knew they were coming before they actually hit the mailboxes. So I'm excited to be able to have access to that again.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if you can figure out the Secretary of State website.
Right.
You have to have an interpreter.
Oh, I'm going to do a show and tell one of these weeks, Shilo. How to navigate.
This is awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So
Rick, what you get to Washington, right? We get you all the way through November. We get you to Washington. Are there any particular committees that you would like to work on?
Well, I hadn't given much any thought to that before I'd gone out to DC here during the campaign. And then people were asking me a lot and making suggestions. I mean, as a freshman, I'm probably going to go where I get stuck, right? Most likely. It sounds like E&C might be good, because there are physicians, energy and commerce. There are physicians, medicine or health is in that committee. And so is energy being very important, obviously, to North Dakota. Me being a physician, there's some physicians retiring. They may want to put me on there. Also, agriculture is tremendously important to North Dakota. They may want to put me on there. I'm content to go where they think I would do best. And regardless of where I go, I'm going to work my butt off again for the principles that that we three and many of your viewers aspire to, and those conservative principles. So the power, and I always say this, my power as an elected official is in when I was a legislator and when I go to Congress is in my vote and the power of persuasion to my colleagues. That's it. I don't believe in power in these other things where you try and you sell yourself, you sell your soul to try and get into a position so that you can do good. The problem is once you've sold your soul, I don't think there's any coming back from that.
Yeah. Something else we quick touched on before you came on the show. Something I told people that they need to be asking their local legislators, especially in light of the whole doctor situation, and now legislative leaders are going to be reevaluating the ethics committee. And I see if you agree with me on it. Like, if you got somebody running for your local legislation, you should be asking them, will you support the ethics committee and what they're supposed to be actually doing? And B, would you be willing to reverse the legislation passed in 2019 that made legislators' emails immune to FOIA or open records requests?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's two very big pieces of transparency, I feel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know where you would stand on that, or if you've had to have fun with the ethics commission, but obviously things need to be addressed.
Yeah, things really need to be addressed. Yeah, the transparency aspect, I was shocked, when that aspect. I forget the details, but I know Judy Lee's bill and all. I think I looked that up, and I think I voted correctly on it. I don't recall the details. And then the Ethics Commission, yeah, it's interesting, especially now we see what has happened recently with Representative Doctor, and which I was, I introduced a bill regarding making legislators have to report any ownership they have in properties, and especially properties that they were leasing to state agencies, and would also prevent legislators from being able to vote on a budget for an agency to whom they were leasing space, which seems like pretty common sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, we couldn't get that through committee. That was phenomenal that they wouldn't pass that. I don't know if they have a different appetite now based on what's been happening, and it's the same. So yeah, we need conflict of interest rules and regulations in place. The ethics committee or ethics commission was looking, or they were doing that, and then Julie Fedorchak specifically was adamantly opposed to them putting in more stringent rules for conflicts of interest. And I tell you what, if you do your research, you're going to find all sorts of conflict of interest there.
Oh, we were showing.
Yeah, we were talking about.
I pulled up JPR Investments and screen shared with these folks and started showing how much money actually has gone out to the Roars family. So I'm sure I made somebody mad.
Oh, for the Roars, okay, yeah.
Well, and we pulled up Stealth Properties. It was 2.7 million total since fiscal year 21.
Yeah,
down to Stealth Properties. So,
Yeah.
and something I had talked about too is like, why don't we just pass legislation that says, yeah, here's your financial disclosures, here's your business interest. As long as you hold an elected position, you can't do business with the state or local entities. I mean, that way you're not worried about conflict of interest because there is none.
Right.
You're not signing leases and voting on it at the same time.
Yep. Pretty easy. Pretty darn easy.
But you're crazy for saying things like that because we don't do that here.
No, never, ever.
Oh, Rick, it's always fun to have you on. It's nice to be able to vent because there's just days you got to laugh about it. You do. Like your flyer showed up in my mail and I'm like, oh my God, here it comes. And I was waiting for another one the next day. It never showed up, but
yeah.
How does one get on their mailing list? Like, I've never talked to these people before.
If you've ever registered as a Republican, you're on their mailing list.
Oh, is that how it goes?
Not technically, because we don't have registration.
Well, we still register with your local party. I know I got the unofficial list when I was running for office. You can't believe how many angry Democrats emailed me back that I was even suggesting I was going to be their Secretary of State candidate.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being on with us. I think you're probably our most frequent guest. So we should maybe have a VIP for Here's the Deal. Rick can be number one.
When you're, what is it? There's something, is it an orange jacket or something like that? When you're on Saturday Night Live 5 times, then you get a special jacket.
Okay.
Well, if you get elected, we'll get you a special jacket too, just so that you can say, this is from HTD. I'm here to represent North Dakota.
Right.
It won't be a straight jacket either, so don't worry.
Be careful because I think I was at the amount of times you are now, and that's after that Shilo asked me to be his co-host. So we got to avoid having you on at least for a little bit. Otherwise, next thing you know, he's going to want you on the show.
Right.
He's going to fire me for a better looking guy.
Note to self. I'll be careful of that. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. So, and by the way, if people don't know already, go to rickbecker2024.com. Check things out, make a donation. Why not?
Well, Rick, I wish you the best. I know a lot of our viewers wish you the very, very best too. And I hope to see awesome things for you in the next coming month.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Let us know if you need anything.
Have a good night. Go get some supper, man.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
So that is Dr. Rick Becker. Obviously, I've got our signs up in my closet. That's going to be the podcast studio someday.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
next time you want more signs, give me more notice than 2 minutes.
yeah, I'm sorry. Well, that kind of I don't know, that was just a spur of the moment thing, but anyway, no, I again, yes, I have Rick Becker signs up. I have a lot of actually I have the um Corey signs behind those. I got some other older ones, so I just started collecting them as people were on the show. So at any rate, but I think we need to have Alex on again. He was a good interview, and I know you've talking to him a couple times or whatever the case may be. So we
Yeah,
are gonna.
and he wants to get on with us again. So
Okay.
he did reach out to me well a couple weeks ago when we sat and had that conversation. I actually think it'd be fun to have a round table with him and Rick, but I know they're both busy, so that's
Well, I know out of the next week is out of the question for Rick, but maybe we should try and schedule that. Maybe we should talk to Alex about being on next week and then go from there about having a roundtable discussion with those two and see if we can't get it done. I know we've reached out to Julie as well, and she's just not responding, but she does send me emails every week.
in your junk.
Yeah, I
Oh
forget to
boy.
read them, but maybe that's the case. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe she's just forgetting to read our emails, our invitations, and answering phone calls or whatever. But I
All
don't
right,
know.
folks, before we go, I have a comment that I'm going to be dropping here. This is something I've been working on. It by no means is complete. If you see that Google Doc that's popping up,
Yes.
that is every legislator in North Dakota since 2001. All the businesses that could physically confirm that they were attached to either through registration, multiple lists to their home addresses, yada, 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 yada. There's a lot. There's a lot of businesses that are out there. And not every one of your legislators is bad. But this is all stuff that when I contacted the Secretary of State about to find what businesses were listed with legislators, they wanted to charge me $5 per name per legislative session. Now, keep in mind, we have 141 legislators.
Jeez.
Yeah. So think about that math. This was a lot more work to get to. Again, it's probably about 95% complete, but every one of the businesses that's listed is registered through the Secretary of State. It has the true filing numbers. It has the addresses for the registered agents. If you go on the Office of Budget Management website, folks, you can start looking. You can start looking who's been getting money while they're sitting in office. Because Jason wasn't the only one.
Probably not.
So, but that's probably not going to make me any more friends than last week's show did. So,
Friends.
friends.
You got me, Marv.
Friends.
That's all you need, okay?
Oh, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Thanks, Shilo. But no, the documents there, it's viewable. You can take it as you want, but the more information you have, the better.
On a side note, well, it just kind of popped into my brain. Today, there was a really good interview on K-Fire. It was with Jason Heitkamp and Michael Bell.
I didn't get a chance to listen.
I encourage you guys to go back and listen to that interview. I didn't know what to expect. Michael Bell was actually really good to Jason. I thought it was a good discussion. It was the whole second hour of the show. So I encourage you guys to go and listen to that. It was a good interview. So, but with that, I guess, do you have anything else, Marv?
No, other than Facebook needs to quit listening to me talk, because now I'm getting health and human service ads.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
That's awesome.
But no, I don't, folks. Like we've preached and preached and preached. Know your candidates, do
Mhm.
your research, reach out to them, ask them questions that you haven't heard them answer. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because at the end of the day, they're representing you, whether it's on your township, on your state legislator, if it's your U.S. representative or your future governor candidate. Know the people that you're electing.
Yeah.
And obviously, our viewers know that, otherwise they wouldn't be sitting and watching us ramble.
Right. Fair enough. All right. Well, with that, you guys enjoy the rain. If it's raining where you are, I know it's still raining. It looks like it's raining outside still, right here in the northwestern part of the state. So enjoy your weather. Oh, by the way, to all the mothers out there, this weekend is Mother's Day, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh boy, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Everybody hug their mother and let them know how much they love them.
What'd you get?
So-
What'd you get, Angel? She doesn't know she wants.
I still got a few days. Leave me alone. God, with friends like you, who needs enemies, Marvin? Come on. Now.
Right.
I wonder if she's watching right now. Last week she was watching, so I don't know.
Well,
We'll
if not,
see.
I'll text her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Gee, thanks. Just remember, I know Sarah too. I can contact Sarah. Would you
Tell
get
her
Sarah?
What? What did I get, Sarah? I'm not talking about it.
So you got a couple days left yet too, don't you?
No, I have projects I need to finish. Let's just put it that way. I got to get her greenhouse finished and put together, and we're getting ready. We're going to be doing a garage sale here at the end of May, and if you've ever done one of those, you know how much fun those are.
Yeah.
Especially when my garage is my workshop. I got a lot of sawdust to get cleaned up.
There you go.
So.
All right, folks, we will see you next week right here on Here's the Deal.